The meeting hall on Galactic Council Station Omega-7 was huge, bigger than most sports stadiums on Earth. The ceiling stretched so high that clouds could form up there. Lights floated in the air without any wires or supports, casting a warm glow. Over the massive space ambassador Taman walked through the entrance doors. His black diplomatic suit looked plain next to all the strange beings around him. He was not a tall man, maybe average height for a human. His hair was neat and short. His face showed no emotion, but his dark eyes watched everything carefully. The hall was full of aliens. So many different kinds that Taman had stopped counting long ago. There were the Saurians with their green scales and sharp teeth. They stood on two legs like humans but had long tails that swept behind them. The Keth buzzed around with their 6 arms and compound eyes that looked like broken mirrors. The Luminari floated above everyone else, their bodies made of pure light that changed colors when they spoke. Tay-Min found his seat in the human section. It was small compared to the other areas. It's only 12 chairs for the entire human delegation. Next to him sat Biora, his aide. She was young, maybe 25, with bright eyes and quick hands that were always taking notes on her tablet. "How many species are here today?" Taman asked quietly. Bora looked at her tablet. 47 confirmed. 3 more might show up later. Taman nodded. 47 different alien races and humans were the newest members. They had joined the Galactic Council only 6 months ago. Some species had been members for thousands of years. The meeting began with the usual business. Trade agreements between the Mothwing people and the Crystal Eaters. Border disputes between 2 species Taman could not pronounce the names of. He listened politely and made notes when something might affect Earth. Then the real trouble started. A massive figure stood up in the center of the hall. It was Vextel, the representative from the hegemony. He was 3 meters tall and made of what looked like living crystal. His body was clear like glass, but light moved through it in strange patterns. When he spoke, his voice was like rocks. "Falling down a mountain, fellow council members," Vexel began. "I wish to address a serious matter." The hall went quiet. Even the buzzing Keth stopped moving. Vextel was known for causing problems, but he was also powerful. His species controlled 12 star systems and had weapons that could crack planets. "I speak of the recent addition to our council," Vextel continued. His crystal body pulsed with red light. The human's Taman felt his jaw tighten. He kept his face calm, but Biora noticed his hands grip the edge of his chair. "These creatures," Vextel said, pointing one crystal finger at the human section, "are barely evolved primates. Look at them. Soft skin that tears easily, no natural weapons, no armor plating, no energy projection abilities. They are prey animals, masquerading as a spacefaring civilization." A low murmur ran through the hall. Some species nodded their heads or made sounds of agreement. The Saurians showed their teeth in what might have been smiles. The Keth's wings fluttered with excitement. Tay-Min stood up slowly. "Representative Vexel, humans have contributed silence." Vexel's voice boomed across the hall. "I am not finished speaking." The crystal being turned to face the other species. "Look at their representative. Small, weak, defenseless. On my world, we would use such creatures as food for our young. What could such pathetic beings possibly contribute to our alliance?" More murmurs of agreement. Taman saw species that had been neutral before now, nodding along with Vextel's words. "They have no claws," Vexel continued, warming to his subject. "No fangs, no poisonous spines, no ability to regenerate lost limbs. They die if they lose too much of their red blood. They need to breathe constantly or they suffocate. They must eat every few hours or they become weak. They sleep for 8 hours out of every 24, leaving them vulnerable." Biara's stylus snapped in her grip. She was angry, but she knew better than to interrupt. This was diplomacy. An outburst would only make things worse. "Furthermore," Vextel said, his crystal form now glowing bright orange, "they come from a world with only 1 moon. 1. Their gravity is so weak that they float around in their spacesuits. Their star is small and yellow, not even a proper blue giant. Their planet is mostly water, which shows how underdeveloped their civilization is. A Saurian representative stood up. The crystal speaker makes valid points. Why should we trust our security to beings who cannot even survive in vacuum without artificial life support? Indeed, buzzed a Keth. Their reaction times are slow. Their strength is pitiful. I could snap one in half with my smallest arm. Taman felt heat rising in his chest, but he forced himself to remain calm. Getting angry would prove their point. He was a diplomat, not a warrior. My species, Vexel announced, has warriors who can shatter stone with their bare hands. We can survive in the vacuum of space. We feed on minerals and require no organic matter. We have no weaknesses these humans could exploit. He turned back to Taman. Tell me, human, what can your species do that we cannot do better? Iman stood again. We can learn. We can adapt. We can adapt. Vexel laughed, a sound like breaking glass. To what? You have no natural predators worthy of the name? Your entire planet is soft and green and peaceful. You've never faced real danger. The hall erupted in what could only be described as alien laughter. The Saurians hissed. The Keth buzzed loudly. Even some of the more polite species made sounds of amusement. I propose, Vexel said, when the noise died down, that we revoke their membership. What place do prey animals have in a council of predators? The luminary representative, a being of pure yellow light, floated forward. Perhaps the crystal speaker is too harsh, but his concerns have merit. Humans do appear fragile. Fragile. Vexel's voice rose. They are not fragile. They are weak. There is a difference. Fragile things can still be dangerous if handled wrongly. These humans are simply weak. Biora whispered to Taman. Sir, should we contact Earth Command? Taman nodded slightly. Face remained calm, but inside he was making plans. He had hoped this day would never come, but Earth had prepared for it. Vexel was not finished. I challenged the humans to prove their worth. Let them demonstrate their strength. Let them show us what makes them worthy of sitting among true predators. The hall went silent. A formal challenge in the Galactic Council was serious business. If humans refused, they would be seen as cowards. They accepted and lost, they would be expelled from the council. Furthermore, Vexel continued, if they cannot prove their worth, they will withdraw their membership application and never return. Taman looked around the hall. Some species watched with interest. Others seemed bored. Few looked almost hungry, as if they wanted to see humans fail. Well, Vexel demanded, do you accept, or do you slink away like the prey animals you are? Taman stood once more. His voice was steady and calm. The human delegation will consider your challenge. Consider. Vexel's crystal body flared bright red. There is nothing to consider. Accept or admit your weakness. We accept, Taman said simply. The hall erupted in excited chatter. This was unexpected. Most species thought humans would back down. Vexel's red glow faded to a pleased orange. Excellent. Choose your strongest warrior. Tomorrow, they will face a champion of our choosing in combat simulation. When your warrior falls, you will pack your belongings and leave. Taman bowed slightly, agreed. As the meeting ended and species began to file out, Biora leaned close to Taman. Sir, do we actually have a plan? Taman smiled for the first time all day. Oh yes, we have a plan. Yeah. He pulled out his communication device and sent a single message to Earth Command. Send Hyensu. The message was brief, but Biora saw something in her ambassador's eyes that she had never seen before. It was not fear or worry. It was anticipation. The private quarters on Galactic Council Station Omega-7 were small but comfortable. Taman sat at a metal desk, staring at a blue holographic screen that flickered in the dim light. The quantum communication device hummed softly as it connected. To Earth Command, 30,000 light-years away, Biora paced behind him, her tablet clutched tightly in her hands. Sir, what if Earth Command doesn't have anyone who can handle this? What if we're making a mistake? Taman held up one hand. For silence. The screen flashed green, and a familiar face appeared, Admiral Wu Jin looked tired. His gray hair was messy and his uniform was wrinkled. It was probably the middle of the night on Earth. "Ambassador," the admiral said, "I received your message. Tell me exactly what happened." Taman quickly explained the challenge. He told the admiral about Vextal's insults, about the other species agreeing with him, about the formal challenge that could end humanity's membership in the Galactic Council. Admiral Wu Jin listened without interrupting. When Taman finished, the admiral was quiet for a long moment. "Sir?" Taman asked. "Do we have options?" The admiral smiled. It was not a happy smile. "We always knew this day would come. The alien species see us as weak because we don't have claws or fangs or natural armor. They think being civilized means being helpless. But what can we do?" Biora asked, stepping closer to the screen. "Our soldiers are good, but they're still human. They can't fight a 3-meter-tall crystal being or a Saurian warrior. Who said anything about fighting?" Admiral Wu Jin asked. The admiral leaned back in his chair. "There's something the aliens don't understand about humans. Something they've never bothered to learn. They see our cities and our diplomats and our peaceful ways, and they think we're prey animals who got lucky, aren't we?" BR asked quietly. "No," the admiral said. "We're not." He stood up and walked to a window. Even through the hologram, they could see Earth spinning slowly in the darkness of space. "Every species in the galaxy evolved from prey animals," the admiral continued. "The Saurians were small lizards who hid in caves. The Keth were insects who lived in hives to protect themselves. The Luminari were energy beings who fled from anything solid. Even Vexthal's people were crystals that grew in deep caves, too. Avoid other creatures. But humans..." The admiral turned back to face them. "Humans are different. We didn't evolve from prey animals. We evolved from predators." Taman felt a chill run down his spine. "What do you mean?" The admiral said that long before we built cities or learned to farm, humans were apex predators. We hunted animals much larger and stronger than ourselves. We chased mammoths across frozen plains. We tracked prey for days without stopping. We used tools and teamwork and intelligence to kill things that could easily kill us. Bora sat down heavily, but we're not like that anymore. We're civilized. "Being civilized doesn't mean being weak," the admiral said. "It means choosing to be peaceful when you could choose to be violent. But the capacity for violence is still. They're hidden, but they're..." He pressed a button on his desk. "Send for Hyensu, sir." A voice came through the intercom. "Tell him it's time." The admiral turned back to the hologram. "Hyensu's been waiting for this moment. He's been preparing for 3 years. Who is he?" Taman asked. "Someone who remembers what we really are." The scene shifted to Earth's moon. Deep underground, in a facility that didn't appear on any public maps, a man sat in a small, empty room. The walls were white and bare. The only furniture was a simple chair and a small table with a smooth, black stone on it. The man's name was Hyensu. He looked ordinary, maybe 30 years old, with short black hair and a quiet face. He wore plain gray clothes that looked like pajamas. His hands rested on his knees and his eyes were closed. He had been sitting like this for 6 hours. Before that, he had been sitting like this for 6 hours yesterday, the day before that, and every day for the past 3 years. A soft chime sounded. Hyensu opened his eyes. They were dark brown, like most humans, but there was something different about them. Something that made the guards outside his door uncomfortable. "Hyensu," a voice said from speakers hidden in the walls. "You have a visitor." The door opened. A woman in a military uniform walked in. She was tall and strong-looking, with short hair and serious eyes. Her name was Colonel Dayun, and she was the only person who visited Hyensu. "Hello, Hyensu," she said, sitting in the chair across from him. "Hello, Colonel," he replied. His voice was soft and calm. "We need you," Hyensu nodded. "I know. I felt it." Colonel Dayun looked surprised. "You felt it? How?" "It's the same way a wolf feels when someone threatens its pack," Hyensu said. "It's time to remember what we are, like in it." Old man, but there was nothing old about the way he moved. Every movement was controlled and purposeful. "How do you feel?" Colonel Dayun asked. "Ready?" Hyensu said simply. "The aliens think we're weak. I know. They want to fight us. I know. Don't understand what they're asking for. Hyensu picked up the black stone from the table. It was smooth and warm from 3 years of handling. No, he said. They don't. Colonel Dayun stood up. Your transport is ready. You'll be at the station in 18 hours. What am I walking? Into a combat simulation. You'll face their champion. It's probably a Saurian warrior or something similar. Big, strong, fast, dangerous, Hyensu smiled. It was not a cruel smile or a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who understood a joke that nobody else had heard yet. Colonel, he said, what's the most dangerous predator on Earth? A human, she answered without hesitation. And what's the most dangerous predator in the galaxy? Human who's been reminded of what he is? Hyensu nodded. I'll need simple clothes. Nothing military, nothing that looks threatening. Why? Because the best predators don't look like predators until it's too late. Back on the station, Taman was getting ready for bed when his communication device chimed. The message was simple. Package delivered. 18 hours. Biora looked up from her tablet. Sir, I've been researching the other species' champions. The Saurians have warriors who can bite through steel. The Keth have poison that can kill most life forms. The crystal. Beings like Vexel can survive in vacuum and shoot energy beams. And what do we have? Taman asked. I don't know. Admiral Wujin wouldn't tell me anything about this Hyensu person. Taman sat down on his bed. Biora, do you know what humans did before we had cities? We were farmers. Before that, we lived in tribes. Before that. Bora thought for a moment. We were hunters. We were persistence hunters, Taman corrected. Chased our prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. We tracked wounded animals for days. We worked together to kill things much bigger and stronger than ourselves. But that was thousands of years ago. Was it? Taman asked. Or did we just decide to stop? Biora was quiet for a long moment. Do you think this Hyensu person can actually win? I think, Taman said, that tomorrow the aliens are going to learn something about humans that they probably wish they hadn't. Outside their quarters, the station hummed with activity. Aliens from 47 different species were placing bets on tomorrow's combat simulation. Most of them were betting on how quickly the human would lose. None of them were betting on the human winning. They should have been in 18 hours. Hyensu would arrive. And with him would come a reminder that humans had not always been civilized, diplomatic and peaceful. Once upon a time, they'd been something else entirely. Something that other creatures had learned to fear. Something that had never really gone away. It had just been sleeping. The docking bay of Galactic Council Station Omega-7 was huge and busy. Ships of every shape and size floated in and out through the energy barriers that kept the air inside. Some ships looked like metal flowers with petals that opened and closed. Others were perfect spheres that glowed with inner light. A few were so strange that they hurt to look at directly. Tay-Min stood on the observation deck above the main docking area. Biora was beside him, checking her tablet for the 10th time in 5 minutes. Below them, dozens of aliens had gathered to watch the human champion arrive. Are you sure he's coming? Biora asked. The transport should have been here an hour ago. He's coming, Taman said calmly. But inside, he was worried too. What if something had gone wrong? What if Hyensu had changed his mind? A soft chime sounded through the station's speakers. Transport vessel Earth Sevevance, requesting docking permission. Biora grabbed Taman's arm. That's him. The crowd below began to buzz with excitement. Aliens pointed at the docking bay entrance with claws, tentacles, and energy fields. Everyone wanted to see what kind of warrior humanity would send. A ship appeared through the energy barrier. It was small and white, about the size of a shuttle bus. There were no weapons visible on its surface, no armor plating, no scary decorations. It looked like something a clerk might use to travel between planets. That's it? A Saurian voice hissed from below. That tiny thing. Maybe the warrior is very small, suggested a Keth.
Ow.
Or maybe, laughed another voice, the humans are even weaker than we thought. The ship landed with a soft thud. Stem hissed from its landing gear. The crowd pressed closer, eager to see what would emerge. The ship's door opened with a quiet whoosh. A man stepped out. He was not wearing armor. He was not carrying weapons. He was not even wearing a military uniform. Instead, he wore simple civilian clothes, a plain white shirt, dark pants, and comfortable shoes that looked like they were made for walking. He was not particularly tall, maybe average height for a human. His hair was black and short, neatly combed. His face was calm and peaceful. In his right hand he carried a small black stone. The crowd fell silent. This was their champion. This ordinary-looking man who looked like he should be working in an office. Then the laughter started. It began with a few saurians making hissing sounds. Then the Keth joined in with their buzzing. Soon, almost every alien in the docking bay was making whatever sound their species made when they found something funny. "This is a joke," said a tall, thin alien with too many arms. "The humans are making fun of us." "Where is his weapon?" asked a creature that looked like a walking tree. "Where is his armor?" "Maybe he forgot to bring them," suggested a blob-like being that spoke through color changes. Hyansu stood quietly beside his ship, waiting for the laughter to die down. He did not look angry or embarrassed. He looked patient, like a teacher waiting for noisy students to settle down. High above on the observation deck, Taman watched the scene with growing concern. Even he had expected someone who looked more warrior-like. "Sir," Biora whispered, "are we sure this is the right person?" Before Taman could answer, a familiar voice boomed across the docking bay. "Behold!" Vextel's crystal form appeared, glowing bright orange with amusement. The mighty human warrior. He looks like he should be serving drinks at a diplomatic reception. The laughter got louder. Oh. Some aliens were now making sounds that were probably their version of applause. Vextel approached Hyansu, his crystal body towering over the human. "You are the champion humanity sends to face our trials?" "You." Hyansu looked up at the crystal being. "I am." "What weapons do you carry?" "None." "What armor do you wear?" "None." "What special abilities do you possess?" Hyansu was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I remember what I am." Vextel's crystal form flickered with confusion. "What does that mean?" "You'll see," Hyansu said simply. The crystal being laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "This is even better than I hoped. The humans are so weak that they send an unarmed civilian to fight our champions." Across the docking bay, Dr. Myung stepped forward. She was a human xenobiologist who had been stationed on the facility for 2 years. She was small and wore thick glasses that made her eyes look large. Most aliens ignored her because she seemed harmless. But Dr. Myung had been busy. For the past day, she had been running subtle scans on all the alien species present. Her portable scanner looked like a simple tablet, but it could read biological patterns, brain activity, and genetic markers. What she had discovered made her very excited and very worried at the same time. "Ambassador," she said into her communication device, "I need to speak with you immediately." Up on the observation deck, Taman heard her voice through his earpiece. "Dr. Myung, what did you find?" "Not over the cum," she said urgently. "In person. It's about the alien species' neurological patterns." Taman frowned. "We're in the middle of, sir. This is important. I think I know why Admiral Wu Jin was so confident." Below them, Vexel was still taunting Hyansu. "Tell me, human, what makes you think you can face our warriors? Do you have some hidden power? Some secret technique?" Hyansu shifted the black stone from his right hand to his left. "I told you. I remember what I am. And what are you?" Hyansu looked directly at Vextel. For just a moment, something flickered in his eyes. Something that made the crystal being take a step backward without realizing it. "I'm human," Hyansu said quietly. The way he said it made the docking bay go quiet again. Not the quiet of laughter about to start, but the quiet of something important happening. "The combat simulation begins in 1 hour," Vexel announced. His voice not quite as confident as before, I hope you have made peace with whatever gods your species worships. I don't need to, Hyansu said. I'm not the one who should be worried. Vexel's crystal form flashed red with anger. You dare threaten me? I'm not threatening anyone, Hyansu said calmly. I'm just stating a fact. He turned and walked toward the exit, carrying his small black stone. The crowd parted to let him pass. Some aliens moved aside quickly, as if they didn't want to get too close to him. As Hyansu walked past Dr. Mi-young, he paused. Doctor, he said softly, I think you figured it out. The predator-prey response patterns, she whispered back. They're all descended from prey species. All of them, Hyansu agreed. Every single one. But humans are not. Smiled. It was a gentle smile, but somehow it made Dr. Mi-young's heart beat faster. We never were, he continued, walking toward the exit. Behind him, the aliens began to whisper among themselves. Some of them were starting to look less confident than before. On the observation deck, Taman watched his species champion disappear into the corridor. The man looked so ordinary, so peaceful, so completely non-threatening. Cerbera said, Quietly, I'm starting to think the other species have made a mistake. What kind of mistake? The kind, she said, that prey animals make when they don't recognize a predator until it's too late. Down in the docking bay, Vexel was still glowing red with anger. But for the first time since issuing his challenge, he was also feeling something else. Something he had not felt in a very long time. Something that his species had almost forgotten existed. Doubt the combat simulation would begin in 1 hour. The arena was already being prepared. Champions from a dozen different species were getting ready to face the human. They were all expecting an easy victory. They were all about to learn something new about Earth's children. Something that would change how they saw humans forever. Something that would make them wish. They had never asked the question, what makes you think you can face our warriors? Because now they were going to find out. The combat simulation arena was the largest room on Galactic Council Station Omega-7. It was a perfect circle. It was 50 meters across, with a dome ceiling that showed the stars outside. The floor was made of a special material that could change into any environment, desert, forest, ocean, or empty space. Hundreds of aliens filled the seats that rose up from the arena floor like a bowl. Every species was represented. Saurians hissed with excitement. Keth buzzed and fluttered their wings. Luminari floated above the crowd, their light bodies pulsing with anticipation. In the center of the arena, two figures stood facing each other. One was Morgak, the champion of the Saurian warrior caste. He was 3 meters tall and covered in thick green scales that looked like natural armor. His arms were as thick as tree trunks, and his claws were longer than kitchen knives. His mouth was full of teeth that could bite through steel. When he moved, the ground shook. The other was Hyance. He still wore his simple civilian clothes. He still carried only the small black stone. Next to the massive Saurian, he looked like a child. The crowd was placing bets on how quickly Morgak would win. Most aliens thought it would be over in less than 30 seconds, high in the observation area. Taman sat with Dr. Mi-young. She had finally been able to explain her discovery. Every alien species here evolved from prey animals, she said quietly, showing him her tablet. The Saurians were small lizards that hid in caves from larger predators. The Keth were insects that lived in swarms for protection. Even Vextal. Crystal people were minerals that grew deep underground to avoid being eaten. What does that mean? Taman asked. It means, Dr. Mi-young said, that buried deep in their genetic memory is the knowledge of what it feels like to be hunted. To be prey, to be afraid. But they're all predators now. They became predators, Dr. Mi-young corrected. But they started as prey. The fear is still there, hidden in their brains. They just forgot about it because they haven't faced a real predator in thousands of years. And humans? Dr. Mi-young smiled grimly. Humans never forgot, because we were never prey. Down in the arena, the fight was about to begin. Vexthal-esque crystal form floated above the center, serving as a referee. This is a combat simulation too first. Defeat, Vexthal announced. No killing is allowed, but all other methods are permitted. Begin when the tone sounds. Morgak crouched low, his muscles bunching like coiled springs, his claws extended fully, his mouth open to show rows of sharp teeth. He looked like a nightmare made of scales and fury. Hyensu stood straight and calm. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath. When he opened them again, something had changed. The tone sounded. Morgak charged. The Saurian warrior moved faster than something that big should be able to move. His claws reached for Hyensu's throat. His mouth opened wide enough to bite the human's head off. But Hyensu didn't dodge. He didn't run. He didn't try to fight back. Instead, he looked at Morjat. Really looked at him. It wasn't a normal look. It was the look of something that had spent millions of years climbing to the top of the food chain. The look of something that had hunted mammoth across frozen plains. The look of something that had tracked wounded prey for days without stopping. The look of something that had learned to kill creatures much larger and stronger than itself. It was the look of an apex predator. Morgak stopped mid-charge, the massive Saurian warrior, who had never lost a fight in his life, who could tear apart metal with his bare claws, who had killed enemies twice his size, suddenly couldn't move. Every instinct in his body was screaming at him to run. Every gene that his ancestors had passed down for millions of years was telling him that he was looking at death itself. His legs began to shake. His claws retracted without his permission. His proud warrior's stance crumbled into a defensive crouch. "What?" he whispered. "What are you?" Hyensu took a step forward. His movement was slow and controlled, like a cat stalking a mouse. Morgak took a step backward. "I am what I've always been," Hyensu said softly. "I'm just not pretending anymore." The crowd had gone completely silent. This wasn't what anyone had expected to see. Aizen-Su took another step forward. This time, something else happened. His presence seemed to fill the arena. Not his physical presence. He was still just an ordinary-looking human in civilian clothes. But something deeper. Something older. The genetic memory of every prey animal that had ever looked up to see death approaching on two legs. In the stands, aliens began to feel uncomfortable. They didn't know why. Some started to fidget. Others looked toward the exits. "Fight. Back," Vexthal commanded from above. "This is supposed to be combat." God. But Morgak couldn't fight back. His warrior training, his strength, his weapons, none of it mattered. His brain was no longer listening to his conscious mind. It was listening to something much older and more powerful. The part that remembered being prey. Hyensu took a third step forward. Now he was close enough to touch the trembling Saurian. "Please," Morgak whispered. "Please don't. Don't." "What?" Don't. 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 Don't hunt me." The words came out without Morgak meaning to say them. But once said them, he knew they were true. This human wasn't just opponent in a combat simulation. This human was a predator. Morgak was prey. Hyensu reached out slowly and placed his hand on Morgakwa's scaled chest. The touch was gentle, almost friendly. Morgakwa collapsed. He didn't fall unconscious. He didn't get injured. He simply couldn't stand up anymore. His legs wouldn't hold him. His mind was too busy screaming warnings about the predator standing over him. The arena was dead silent. "Winner," Vexthal announced, his voice uncertain. "Human Hyensu." But the crowd didn't cheer. They didn't even move. They were all staring at the human who had just defeated a 3-meter-tall warrior without throwing a single punch. "This is impossible," someone whispered. "He didn't even fight," said another voice. "What did he do to Morgak?" In the observation area, Dr. Miyang was frantically taking readings. "Incredible," she breathed. Hyensu is triggering a massive prey response in every alien in the arena. Their stress hormones are going through the roof. "How is he doing it?" Taman asked. "He's not hiding what he is anymore," she said. For the first time in thousands of years, these aliens are in the presence of something that their ancestors learned to fear. A human who remembers that his species conquered an entire planet by being better predators than anything else that lived there. Down in the arena, Hyensu helped Morgak to his feet. The Saurian was still shaking, but he managed to stand. I don't understand, Morgak said. You didn't hurt me. Why am I so afraid? Because Hyansu said kindly, you finally met something your species had forgotten existed. A real predator. But you're just human, Hyansu smiled. Just human, he repeated. Do you know what humans did to every large predator on their planet? Morgak shook his head. We killed them all. Bears, lions, wolves, tigers, anything that might compete with us for food or territory. We hunted them until they were extinct, or until they learned to hide from us. The arena was still silent. Every alien was listening to this conversation. We didn't do it with claws or fangs or natural armor, Hyansu continued. We did it with intelligence and patience and the absolute refusal to give up. We are pursuit predators. We don't give up. We don't stop. We follow our prey until it collapses from exhaustion, and then we kill it. He looked around the arena, making eye contact with aliens throughout the crowd. You all became predators, he said, his voice carrying clearly in the silence. But you started as prey. We started as predators. We just learned to be civilized. Sphex. Crystal form was flickering with uncertainty. This proves nothing. Send another champion. But in the stands, no alien was volunteering. They were all too busy remembering what it felt like to be afraid and wondering if they had made a terrible mistake in challenging the species that had taught fear to an entire planet. The arena remained silent for a long moment after Morgak's defeat. Hundreds of aliens stared at the small human standing calmly in the center of the floor. Some were trying to understand what they had just witnessed. Others were feeling things they had never felt before. Fear, real, deep, ancient fear. Vextal's crystal form pulsed with angry red light. This is unacceptable. One victory proves nothing. Send another champion. A large Keth warrior buzzed down from the stands. This one was different from the others. Bigger, with sharper claws and darker chitin armor. Her name was Victra, and she had won over 50 combat trials. I will face the human, she announced. This mind trick will not work on my species. Hyansu looked up at her with those same calm eyes. Are you sure? The Keith fear nothing. Victra buzzed confidently. We are perfect killing machines. We have no weakness for you to exploit. Everyone has a weakness, Hyansu said quietly. Would you like to find yours? Victra dropped to the arena floor. Her 6 arms spread wide, each one ending in razor-sharp claws. Her compound eyes reflected the arena lights like broken mirrors. Begin, Vextal commanded. Victra attacked immediately. She moved like lightning, all 6 arms striking at once. Her claws could cut through metal. Her speed was faster than most aliens could even see. But Hyansu just looked at her. The same look he had given Morgak. The look of something that had spent millions of years learning to hunt. The look of something that had never forgotten what. It was like to be the most dangerous thing on its planet. Victra stopped mid-attack, her confident buzzing, changed to a hypo-edged whine of distress. Her 6 arms, which had been reaching for Hyansu's throat, now wrapped around her own body in a defensive position. No, she whispered. No. ... What do you see when you look at me? Hyansu asked gently. Victra said, backing away. I see death with a human face. She turned and fled from the arena, her wings buzzing frantically as she tried to escape something that wasn't even chasing her. The crowd was getting restless now. Whispers and nervous sounds filled the air. Some aliens were looking toward the exits. Another, Vextal demanded. Send another champion. A luminary floated down from the upper seats. This one was ancient. Its light was deep blue instead of the usual yellow, which meant it had lived for thousands of years. Its name was Zephyra, and it was one of the oldest beings in the galaxy. I am not a physical creature, Zephyra said, its voice like distant music. I have no genetic memory of being prey. I am pure energy. Your predator instincts cannot affect me. Hyansu nodded respectfully. You're probably right, but may I ask you something? Speak. In all your thousands of years, have you ever seen anything like humanity before? Zephyra's light flickered thoughtfully. No. Most species evolve from prey to predator over millions of years. But humans, Dot. Humans were always predators. And what does that tell you? The ancient luminary was quiet for a long moment. Its light shifted from blue to purple to deep red. It tells me, Zephyra said slowly, that humans are something new, something that should not exist, something that breaks the rules of natural evolution. Why do you think that is? Because Zephyra's light began to dim. Predators that start. As predators don't stop evolving, they just get better at being predators. The ancient being's light flickered weakly. You're not just apex predators. You're apex predators who learn to build starships, learn to think and plan and cooperate on a level that pure predators should not be able to achieve. Hyunsu smiled sadly. And that frightens you. Yes, Zephyra admitted. It terrifies me. The luminary floated back to the stands without another word. Its light remained dim and fearful. ENOUGH. Vexthal's voice boomed across the arena. I will face this human myself. The crystal being descended to the arena floor. As he landed, his form grew larger and brighter. Energy crackled around his crystalline structure. Cannot use your prey predator. Tricks on me, Vexel declared. My species evolved from minerals. We have no biological instincts for you to exploit. Fear nothing, because we are not alive in the way you understand life. Hyunsu looked up at the towering crystal being. You're right. You don't have biological prey instincts. Exactly. So your mind games will not. But you've been living among biological species for thousands of years, Hyunsu continued. You've learned to think like them, to feel like them, to fear what they fear. Vexthal's glow faltered slightly. That is not possible, isn't it? Hyunsu asked. Tell me, when you first met the Saurians, did you fear them? Of course, they were large and dangerous, and the Keth, they were fast and had poison, and every other species you encountered was quiet. You learned fear from them, Hyunsu said. You learned to be afraid of predators because they taught you that predators were something to be afraid of. You may not have biological instincts, but you have learned instincts. And those learned instincts are telling you something right now. What? Vextal whispered. Hyeon-Su looked directly at him. Not just the predator's gaze this time, but something deeper. The accumulated weight of a species that had climbed to the top of its food chain, not through size or strength or natural weapons, but through intelligence and persistence and the absolute refusal to give up the gaze of a species that had survived ice, ages and volcanic winters and mass extinctions, the gaze of a species that had looked at every dangerous creature on their planet and decided to hunt it instead of hiding from it, the gaze of a species that had turned their entire world into their hunting ground. They're telling you, Hyunsu said quietly, that you've made a mistake. Vexel's crystal form began to crack. Not physically. His body was still solid, but something deeper was breaking apart. His confidence, his sense of superiority, his belief that he was stronger than these small, soft humans. All of it shattered at once. The overwhelming realization hit him like a physical blow. Humans weren't weak prey animals, pretending to be strong. They weren't evolved herbivores who had gotten lucky with technology. They were apex predators who had learned to build starships. They were hunters who had taught themselves to be civilized. They were the most dangerous thing the galaxy had ever seen, and they had been hiding it behind smiles and diplomacy and peaceful words. Vextal's crystal form exploded into 1,000 pieces. He didn't die. Crystal beings couldn't die the way biological creatures could, but his consciousness scattered, his ego destroyed, his sense of self completely shattered. The pieces of crystal lay scattered across the arena floor, each one still glowing faintly, but no longer connected to a single mind. The arena was completely silent then. Slowly, one by one, the aliens in the stands began to bow, not to show respect. Not because they wanted to, because every instinct they had was telling them to submit to the apex predator before it decided they were a threat. Hyunsu stood in the center of the arena, surrounded by the scattered remains of Vextal's arrogance. and nodded to each species that bowed to him. When the last alien had shown submission, he turned and walked quietly toward the exit. As he passed Dr. Myung in the observation area, she called out, "What happens now?" Hyansu paused and looked up at her. For a moment, his eyes were just normal human eyes again, tired and a little sad. "Now," he said, "they know what we really are, and they'll never forget." "Is that good or bad?" Hyansu smiled. "That depends on whether they choose to be our friends or our prey." He continued walking toward the exit. Behind him, the aliens slowly began to file out of the arena. None of them spoke. None of them made their usual sounds. They were all too busy thinking about what they had just learned. Humanity had been accepted into the Galactic Council because the other species thought they were weak and harmless. Now they knew the truth. Humans weren't weak, they had just been choosing to be peaceful. And there was a very big difference between those two things. In the diplomatic chambers later that day, the Galactic Council voted unanimously to offer humanity a permanent seat on the Security Council. Nobody wanted to find out what would happen if they said no. The galaxy had learned something important that day. Some predators hide their fangs behind smiles, and the most dangerous ones are the ones who choose not to hunt you, because that choice can always be changed.